reviewer gets the boots for free and doesn't test them, it's hard to know whether you're hearing the truth or what the brand wants you to hear. We bought every boot in this ranking ourselves, and you'll see our testing process throughout this video. Whether you need comfort, spot-on traction, heavy pack stability, or the right fit, I'll show you exactly which boot to buy, which to avoid, and the best overall hiking boot of this year. Sit back and enjoy the cinematic footage during our review. Our best lightweight boot of this year is the Salomon X Ultra 5. And the reason why it won is simple. Most lightweight boots feel fast because they strip away comfort, protection, and long-term durability. The X Ultra 5 does not. I've now tested this pair through technical trails to easy gravel paths, and it still gives me the speed of a lightweight boot, and most importantly, without feeling fragile or unstable. I weighed these in at 16 ounces per boot. Now that makes it one of the lightest hiking boots I've tested, but the biggest surprise is how stable it feels under load. Now one of the best features of this boot is the matrix upper. It's stronger because the abrasion resistance is woven directly into the fabric with high tenacity Kevlar and technical yarns. The previous welded textile uppers on the X Ultra 4 relied on glued overlays, which create obviously failure points for peeling and delamination. The matrix takes more abuse with fewer parts that can actually come apart. Now it has the advanced chassis and the active support wings, which help control that side-to-side movement even with a heavy backpack. My feet stayed secure instead of collapsing or sliding around uneven terrain. Now most lightweight boots sacrifice stability and support to save that weight. This one does the opposite, delivering stronger lockdown and stability, which is exactly what sets it apart. So stability and support rated that a 4.5 out of 5. Now the traction is even better. It has the Contagrip outsole, and they have aggressive 3.5mm lugs, and held extremely well on uneven basalt, limestone, and steep sandstone. A lot of softer outsoles can flex and deform when your weight shifts on uneven rock, which prevents the lugs from digging in cleanly and makes the boot feel less secure. The X Ultra 5 stayed firm under pressure, so the tread kept its shape, helped keep its edge, and delivered more predictable traction. Now comfort also improved slightly over the previous version. The midsole is slightly more plush, and the ankle padding is a little bit better. I had no lace bite, toe numbness, or uncomfortable pressure points during longer hikes, so comfort rated that an 8.5 out of 10. You also get a 5-inch Gore-Tex flood height, and the boot remained completely dry during my 10-minute submersion test. But there are trade-offs. The fit is naturally snug, so hikers with wider feet may struggle with it. It also took longer to dry after water submersion than you'd expect from a non-leather boot. And of course, at $185, this is not a budget boot. And while it handles backpacking better than most lightweight models, I would still choose a stiffer boot like the Salomon Quest 5 or Lola Renegade for consistently carrying heavier loads. This boot is best for hikers who want to move faster without giving up real traction, ankle support, and durability. Our overall score of the X Ultra 5 is a 9 out of 10. Now the complete opposite, the La Sportiva Ultra Raptor 3 comes in at number 4 of our best hiking boot for technical trails this year. Now traction is the reason why the boot earned its spot. It has the Friction XF 2.0 outsole, and they have deeper 4mm lugs that really bite into loose terrain instead of folding or sliding under pressure. Now compared to most boots on this list, the Raptor 3 gave me a stronger foothold with less side-to-side movement, especially on wet terrain. On steep descents, they have the impact brake system and the trail bite heel change how your foot interacts with the ground in a very noticeable way. Now to explain that real quick, without this setup, your heel tends to land flat and slide forward, forcing your toes to absorb the impact, making each step feel unstable. With it, the angled lugs here and the sculpted heel design actively dig into the terrain the moment your heel strikes, slowing your momentum before your weight fully transfers. Now that creates a clear difference. Instead of sliding then catching yourself, you land, grip, and you stay controlled. Now on loose gravel and scree, this means fewer micro slips and less energy spent correcting your balance. Now the result isn't just better traction, but more predictable movement, which is exactly what you want when the trail is trying to pull you downhill. So Traction rated this a 9.5 out of 10. Stability is just as impressive. It has the stiff TPU shank here, a very deep heel cup, and an external heel stabilizer. It really kept my foot locked downhill, especially on side hill traverses and uneven rock. Now the forefoot is a little bit more flexible than the previous version, so climbing feels smoother without taking away too much of that rigid support that makes this boot really dependable. Now we gave the stability and support a 5 out of 5. This is not a soft, easygoing hiking boot. The cushioning is firm but controlled, and it takes around 15 to 20 miles before the forefoot and midfoot start to soften up, so don't judge this boot just right away. Now during those early miles, the rigidity can create hot spots around the lacing harness, but once it breaks in, the fit is a lot more predictable and glove-like. But don't expect some of the plush comfort of some of the boots we'll talk about in a little bit. So comfort only gets an 8 out of 10. Now this is the Gore-Tex version, and I weighed them in at 16 ounces per boot. Definitely not lightweight, but with this a little aggressive rocker here, it helps you move just a little bit better than the weight suggests. You also get a nice reinforced toe cap here, obviously the TPU overlays we talked about, and definitely enough protection to take repeated hits from sharp rock without feeling the impact through the front of the boot. The Gore-Tex version was fine in our submersion test. However, the fit is the biggest warning. The Ultraraptor 3 runs about a half size small. I recommend sizing up by about a half to a full size, and it does fit narrow, so this is not the boot I would recommend for generally wide feet. This boot is for experienced hikers on technical trails. Skip it if you want immediate comfort, a roomy fit, or a lightweight boot for better groomed trails. Overall, we rated this one an 8.8 out of 10. Now our number 3 rated boot. If the Ultraraptor 3 is a more specialized boot for technical trails, the Merrell Moab 3 is the boot I recommend to someone who wants dependable performance without spending $200. And this is easily our best budget boot of this year. And calling a budget boot almost undersells it. So I've put 3 years of hiking on this boot, and the Moab 3 has been one of the most durable and reliable hiking boots I've ever used. That matters because a cheap boot is not good value if the outsole wears down, obviously, or the upper starts separating after one season. The Moab 3 has done the complete opposite. The Vibram TC5 Plus outsole has excellent lug depth. The traditionally stitched leather has no major tears. The only difference is the structural integrity of the leather upper right around here is a little bit looser, and to get around that, I just tighten them just a little bit more with my lacing technique. So durability rate that a 9.5 out of 10. Traction is another reason why this boot continues to obviously outperform its price. It has the very chunky 5mm lugs and a little bit more of an aggressive heel pattern for braking on descents. Tested it through wet mud, shale, granite, steep inclines, and the grip stayed dependable without the outsole feeling overly soft or folding around uneven terrain. For an affordable all-around hiking boot, the Moab gives you far more traction than the price suggests. We gave it a traction score of an 8.5 out of 10. And comfort is also better than most boots in this range. It has the kinetic fit insole, and it conforms well around your foot, and the midsole absorbs impact pretty well. There's enough padding around the heel and ankle to prevent rubbing and pressure that you usually feel. And the toe box can feel a little snug around the second and third toes during the first few hikes, but the pressure improved during the break-in period. However, Merrell does offer a wide version, so keep that in mind. Stability is another major strength for this one. It has a nice wide base here, and it distributes pressure across more of the foot, while the molded nylon shank supports the midfoot and prevents the boot from really twisting excessively on uneven terrain. While it's not a very agile boot, stability is still one of its selling points. And the waterproof version also performed extremely well. Now Merrell uses its own waterproof membrane instead of Gore-Tex. Now despite that difference, my feet remain completely dry during our 10-minute submersion test. I will say the breathability on the Merrell dry membrane is better than the Gore-Tex membrane. So you can get this boot in the Gore-Tex version or the Merrell dry version. Both work very well, but I would say the Merrell dry is definitely a little bit more breathable. The Moab 3 has one obvious downside. It is pretty heavy. So my men's size 10.5 weighed about 1 pound per boot, which is definitely noticeably heavier than the lightweight options we already talked about. So the Moab 3 is best for weekend hikers, beginners, anybody who wants an affordable boot for hikes and obvious year-round use. Skip this one if speed and low weight are your main priorities, or you need a rigid backpacking boot. And at $120, the Moab 3 delivers. While it's not the most advanced boot, the money is still one of the hardest hiking boots to beat. And coming in at number 2 is the Adidas Terrex Freehiker 3. And comfort is obviously the first thing that separates it. The Freehiker 3 has a very spacious, high volume fit without really sacrificing security over the top of the boot. That balance is important. The footbed is extremely comfortable with a slight sink-in feeling. And many wide boots create toe room but lose control, allowing your foot to slide and be all sloppy in the boot. I had no real heel slipping, hot spots, or really any pressure points, and I definitely didn't need to use specialized lacing techniques to lock my foot down with this boot. On the trail, the impact absorption was the real standout with this one. The heel sits at 41mm, and especially during descents, I felt noticeably less impact through my joints than I do in most boots in this weight category. That's the high contrast difference here. You get great shock absorption, but without the bulk of a heavy boot. The flex point here also lined up naturally with my arch, which is a key difference maker, especially on flat terrain. Instead of fighting this boot through each step, I was moving a lot faster and roll forward more efficiently. It also fits true to size. It feels cushioned but controlled and firm. It feels spacious but still locked in. For those looking for a very comfortable boot, this one delivers, comfort rated a 9 out of 10. Now while I was climbing on ascents with this one, my heel really pressed back into this cushioning without rubbing or creating hot spots. And despite all that cushioning and impact absorption in this boot, I weighted at only 14 ounces per boot. The natural rocker also gives you more of an efficient toe off, so this boot definitely feels lighter and smoother than those traditional wide hiking boots. Traction is another major strength, so it uses the Continental rubber outsole, which is just like the tire company, yes. They have double chevron lugs along the medial and lateral edges of the boot, and that's built for more edge control on uneven terrain, while the horizontal lugs here in the heel and the forefoot are designed for more braking and climbing grip. So this boot's built with purpose, not impressive specs. So traction, we rated it a 9 out of 10. Stability is also excellent in this boot, especially considering Adidas doesn't use any rigid plastic posts or any aggressive internal shakes. Instead, the support comes from the boot's geometry itself. The upper wraps securely around your foot, and the ankle cuff limits any unwanted movement. You have a nice wide sole here, creates a broader platform underneath you, so during side hill testing, foot was completely locked in without shifting inside the boot. So I rated the stability and support a 4.5 out of 5. Obviously, the Gore-Tex liner kept my feet completely dry during our 10-minute submersion test. And because the upper uses synthetic ripstop mesh instead of very thick leather, it dried much faster than several traditional waterproof boots. But there are a few concerns. The toe bumper here does not wrap across the entire toe box front of the boot. It leaves the outer toes a little bit more exposed if you kick a root or sharp rock, and the synthetic material also feels thinner here along the sides, and unfortunately they have synthetic lacing hooks instead of metal. Now I haven't experienced any structural failures. Those are the first areas I will continue to monitor during long-term use. So the thru-hiker 3 can also run warm during summer hikes, and around $200 it's one of the more expensive boots in this ranking. This is for hikers who want lightweight comfort, real support, and traction on varied terrain. It's expensive, and you're paying for that with comfort and stability. If that's what you need, the price makes sense. If not, it definitely doesn't. So overall, we rated this one an 8.9 out of 10. And before we get to number 1, subscribe and like this video if you want real testing instead of these recycled AI overviews or sponsored reviews. We buy the gear ourselves, test it objectively, and show you the results on the camera. Now let's give you our number 1 rated hiking boot of this year. And now our number 1 hiking boot is the Hoka Kaha 3. This is not the lightest boot in the ranking, it's not the cheapest, but is the most complete hiking boot I've ever tested. Because most hikers are not looking for the most technical feature list. They want a boot that keeps their feet from hurting after long hours on the trail. They want enough ankle support to feel secure when the terrain becomes uneven. And most importantly, a boot to survive long enough to justify what they've paid. The Kaha 3 delivers all 4 better than anything else in this ranking. Comfort is the first reason why it earned number 1. Now it has the dual density sugarcane EVA midsole, and it gives you that cushioned Hoka feeling, but it does not collapse underneath your foot or make the boot feel unstable. That's the problem with some of these highly cushioned hiking boots. They feel great when you first put them on, but once you add a backpack or you move on uneven terrain, the softness really works against you. The Kaha 3 completely avoids that. Now the midsole here softens under your foot, however the outsole out here stays firm. It absorbs impact while locking the platform in place. On longer hikes, the nearly 2-inch midsole absorbs impact very well than any of the other hiking boots on this list. You also get a very nice plush sock liner, a pretty roomy toe box, and excellent heel padding. So comfort, we rated them a 9.5 out of 10. But comfort alone is not what makes this the best boot. What separates the Kaha 3 is it combines some of the best cushioning and some of the best stability I've ever tested. You get more than 7.5 inches of ankle coverage, a very broad platform, and you have the extended hubble heel here that creates more contact with the ground. Now your foot sits down inside the structure of the boot instead of balancing on top of the cushioning. Think of it like the difference between standing on a flat platform versus in a bucket seat. On a flat platform, your foot is exposed and it shifts side to side. But while you're in a bucket style design, the sides of the boot wrap up and around your foot and hold it in place. This creates a cradled versus perched contrast. Cradled meaning your foot is guided and controlled within the boot, while perched means your foot is more vulnerable to rolling or sliding when the terrain becomes uneven. Now another big part of the stability comes from the wide platform underfoot here. That increases the leverage the boot has against the torquing forces that normally twist through the midsole. So when you step on an angled rock or you land off center, a lot of narrow boots will allow that force to concentrate and roll through the midsole, which is exactly what creates that unstable ankle tweaking feeling many hikers struggle with. Now, with the Kaha 3, it spreads that force across a broader base, reducing how much that midsole can twist, keeping your foot more aligned with the platform. Now, for hikers who deal with instability issues, this directly targets one of the biggest pain points, those small repeated movements where your foot wants to roll but the boot doesn't give you enough resistance to stop it. So for hikers carrying a pack, dealing with previous ankle problems, or just wanting more confidence, this is where the Kaha 3 really earns its price. So stability and support were rated that a 5 out of 5. Now traction is just as convincing. It has the Vibram Mega Grip outsole. It has a stiff multi-directional lug pattern and definitely grips without folding around rocks or losing its edge under pressure. So I tested on steep basalt, wet limestone, wet granite, and uneven inclines. And the Kaha 3 consistently gave me a strong foothold compared to all these other hiking boots. And the Hubble heel does take a little time getting used to, but that extra ground contact gives you better braking and stability when you're coming downhill. So traction rated that a 9.5 out of 10. Now waterproofing is another major strength. It has the Gore-Tex Invisible Fit, and it kept my foot completely dry during our 10-minute submersion test. The flood height I measured around 7.6 inches, which gives you substantially more protection than the lower cut hiking boots. The membrane also feels less intrusive than traditional Gore-Tex liners. But this still leans toward waterproof protection than maximum summer breathability. Now durability may be the strongest reason to spend the extra money. After 2 years of testing, I haven't noticed any meaningful breakdown of the outsole, the lugs, the cushioning, and it's obviously traditionally stitched, which is what we want compared to those welded materials that fall apart real easily. Midsole hasn't lost any balance and the outsole still holds its original shape, so durability rated a 10 out of 10. The lacing hooks are also placed at an awkward position and they can slip out when you're tying them. And at $240, this is a very serious investment. So this is not the boot for someone who wants an ultralight feel, a lot of breathability, or obviously a budget boot. And the Kaha 3 is not number one because it dominates in one isolated category. It's number one because it gives the widest range of hikers the fewest reasons to regret buying it at the end of the day. And there you have it. Thank you guys for listening. If you're interested in any of these boots, please check the links down below in the description before you buy. I know it's a hassle, but it's absolutely nothing extra and generally makes the difference between us being able to continue these unsponsored reviews or not. And subscribe if you want proof, not another opinion. A lot of channels barely show the testing, repeat the brand's talking points, or build reviews around sponsored products. We buy the gear ourselves, we test it objectively, and show you exactly why each product learned or lost its score. So if you want real testing instead of recycled reviews, please subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to check out our website, mountaineerjourney.com, where you can see this written review, as well as our best of guides, comparison guides, and individual reviews. And we'll see you next time. Thank you.